Welcome back. Thank you for staying with The Big Question. Tonight, we host Francis Meja, Director General of the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, to talk about road carnage and road rules, especially during the high season. Thank you so much for joining us in studio tonight.
Thank you very much, Janet.
All right. Before we engage him in a discussion, let's see if we can put up some tweets of what some of you have been saying. If those are ready, in the meantime, I could read some text messages. Okay, I understand they're ready. Let's see if we can take a look at what some of you are saying or asking. At Njuguna Shege 466 says, yes, the government is doing enough to curb road carnage. It's upon us, the road users, to be extra careful. Okay, and then we have Sal Giraffe, I think that's how you say it. No, many Kenyan drivers do not abide to traffic laws. And then Joy Mwai says, the government has nothing to do with road safety. The responsibility lies upon individual road users. And then finally, at Gitao underscore Kamunyu says, the government has a long way to go. Measures taken to curb road carnage should be implemented to the letter. And then before we go on, also a quick text here. Michael from Thika says, a lot of the routes, particularly the one plying the Kitui-Mwingi-Nairobi route, most of them don't even have speed limiters. Sometimes one wonders whether your authority has authority. And then finally, the government has done a lot, but the Kenyan motorists are always in a hurry. They should know hurry leads to speeding, which results in accidents. So, Mr. Meja, I thought I'd read some viewer feedback. You can see it's kind of mixed. Some people saying, you know, this is really not about the government. This is about road users. So maybe I can ask you, in the tradition of the big question, is the government doing enough to curb road carnage, yes or no?
Under the circumstances, yes.
You would say yes?
Yes. All
right, so right now, it's the high season. This is where we usually see speeding and overloading, especially because there's a lot of people that are going up country. And there's not enough vehicles to ferry the number of people.
Correct.
And so what you tend to see is the bus drivers kind of trying to rush and plow the routes in time to take another group of people.
Correct.
A lot of accidents happen.
Correct.
What is NTSA's plan for the festive season?
May I begin by saying thank you, first of all, for the comments are good. It's positive feedback. But the problem is clear. During this period, there's a rush. People tend to speed. People want to make quick money because many people need to be ferried. And as a result, people get fatigued. And some of the times, results to fatalities. The biggest problem, in my opinion, right now, is not even with the PSVs. The biggest risk is the private motorists and the pedestrians. And
there's facts to support that?
Yes.
By saying that, you're saying that statistically, they're causing more accidents?
Yes.
Okay.
If you look at pedestrians, combined with pedestrians alone is actually accounting for 46%. If you look at the fatalities associated with the motorcycles, if you add those two categories, we are in excess of 60%. That is where the biggest challenge lies. All
right, we'll ask more about that in a few moments. Again, a report by the NTSA shows that the rate of road fatalities on Kenyan roads has reduced by 11.7%, as reported by 30th November 2013, which I guess is good news. What have you been doing, perhaps, to ensure that the numbers are going down, that we're seeing less fatalities on the roads? What have you been doing?
I think we've been doing quite a bit. The first thing is the PSV's regulations that we published early this year. Those regulations have been very, very helpful. And I must commend the PSV sectors. We've started seeing some improvement. We still have a long journey to walk, but we have seen positive signs, and statistics are actually supporting that position. If you look at the statistics associated with this sector, there's a drop of about 22%, which is the single largest improvement this year. So that's one of them. The other issue is speed detection. You realize that we've been, our civilians, we have many cameras, speed cameras detections, speed limits in urban areas. We've been challenged a number of times. The drink driving campaign, we've pushed it quite a bit, and I'm very happy now that the levels of awareness are very high. Public education as well. During this month of December, you have seen our adverts. We have even gone to every single vernacular language, passing the message. And that is the only sustainable way that this campaign can be actually sustained.
All right, which is all very good, and we'll go into that as well a little later on. But just going back to some of the PSVs, because when it comes to private vehicles and motorists, a lot of that is really the responsibility, I think. It generally is the responsibility of the driver, but when it comes to to PSVs. We do see regulations being implemented. We see rules being implemented. Some argue that there isn't consistency. After a while, the same thing happens again and again, and they go out. It's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. We see them going back to the unruly behavior, and then it's like a cycle. So what happens?
Let me say this. Previously, that could have been the truth, that there was no consistency. With an institution in place now in form of NTSA, we can assure you of consistency. And the best way to do this thing is to institutionalize some of the programs that we are having, so that it goes beyond the life of an individual. It is sustained over a long period of time. And that is the only way, because some of these issues are behavioral challenges. And the only way to change behavior is if you consistently, for a long period of time, push the same message, and people will change behavior.
Okay. I'd asked you this just briefly before the interview, but I'll ask you again. Right now, if someone is in a vehicle that's overspeeding, if someone feels like there's a vehicle that's behaving recklessly on the road, it's being carelessly driven, is there a hotline or a number that one can call and report to the NTSA?
That is very important, obviously, and we are receiving quite a number of feedback, and we are acting on them. But as you know, NTSA is fairly new. We are putting in place a proper framework where some of these things can be, feedback can be brought to us, because we can't be everywhere at the same time. With technology today, some of these things actually we need to leverage on, like WhatsApp, when you say misbehavior. We are putting up a proper framework.
As of by when? When do you think? What's the
timeline?
We
think that the tenders are already out, and I believe by early next year we should have a proper way of supporting such kind of things. But for now, we are still not very organized in that, but we are keen to make sure that we actualize that.
So what can someone do right now if they're concerned? What happens?
We have a number that we are using in the office. It may not support all the calls currently, because the infrastructure that is in place is not adequate, but we want to come up with a proper framework where even images can be transmitted and action will be acted upon. Is
it a number you'd be willing to give out?
Yes, I think for now we are using, there's a hotline number we are using. The first interaction will be Facebook. We have a Facebook page, which we are using to interact with people. And we are seeing feedback.
We'll try and
we are acting on them.
We'll try and take those details from you, and hopefully before the end of the show, if it's possible, we can put them up. Let me look at some other numbers as well that I have here. Summary of those who've died from 2014 and 2013 comparisons over a year. We're seeing that in 2014, 1,312 pedestrians died, and in 2013, 1,434. So a reduction of 122. For drivers, we're seeing that 260, and in 2013, it went up to 280. Or rather, actually, it's gone down, sorry. Basically, all along here, we are seeing a reduction. So obviously there's something that's been done right. But again, a lot of people will still argue more needs to be done. I know you've talked about awareness, you've talked about it in media. So what happens, especially, let's actually go into breathalyzer. I was just giving some details before we go to breathalyzer. How effective have your breathalyzer teams been, and have they effectively checked drunken driving? Some may argue it's a money-minting venture by NTSA. What would you say to that?
I think this campaign has been very successful, and you will bear me witness that the levels of awareness, definitely, you have friends that we talk to, they will admit that nobody in Nairobi today is so comfortable drinking and driving. So it means that the campaigns have been successful. I want to correct one notion, that this is a money minting program for NTSA. That actually is not right. The money that we collect because of fines that are collected through this campaign does not necessarily come directly to NTSA. It actually goes to the national treasury by way of exchequer revenue. So we are not motivated by revenue collection. What motivates us is to make sure that this is a serious problem, and if it's not managed, I'm sure the fatalities will likely, definitely, would be on the higher trend. So, and we have seen very fatal accidents, very serious accidents happening because of drunk driving. And it's not just a problem here in Kenya, it's a problem all over the world. Nowhere will you have a situation where you drink and drive. And you are not just a danger to your own self, but also to other motorists and other road users.
To everyone else on the road.
Yes.
some are saying that there's a sense of high-handedness on the side of NTSA, where if a particular vehicle in a certain route flouts the rules, the entire fleet is then punished. Some say that's unfair. Why can't one person or that particular person take responsibility and it doesn't really cut across the entire fleet?
Well, I think that is what the law says. We made these people be. The requirement of the PSV regulation is that you must be a member of a company or a SACCO with a minimum fleet of 30 vehicles. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want this sector to embrace self-regulation. So the first people to take responsibility for the actions of their vehicle is the SACCO itself. So we are telling the SACCO, since the government does not want to be supervising or monitoring what you are doing every now and then, take the first responsibility. If you fail to do that, then all of you must be punished for that. And it works.
How have they responded to that?
Well, there have been arguments that it is a bit harsh, but because of the problem, of the nature of the problem that we are trying to confront here, I think it is not harsh. That is the way to go. And I can tell you, Janet, the only way to organize this sector is through that means. And the best way to do is we need to strengthen these companies and SACCO so that the self-regulations come in flows, so that the government does not intervene in private businesses so often. We only come in when you are unable to do what you are supposed to do.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll ask you another question about that towards the end of this discussion. But let's talk about poor roads and how much they contribute to accidents.
Yes.
What is NTSA and other authorities doing to ensure that poor roads are also addressed? Because that's a major issue in Kenya.
Correct. If you look at the statistics, 85% of our problem is because of human behavior. Around 10% could be attributed to the condition of the roads and maybe weather condition or issues like that. Yes, there is need because some of these things have contributed. But the government is doing its best. If you look at the road infrastructure, for instance, there is a significant improvement. There is no doubt about that. But again, even as we improve the condition on our roads, they become so smooth and they become a problem. And if you look at the major roads that have come up, previously which never witnessed any accidents, because of their improvement, we are having fatality because people speed. And if you look at this country, it's a very strange country. On a superhighway, you will find a bump. Why is it so? Because people do not respect signage. So you resort to physical measures, like erecting a bump to slow people. But if we people were to use the road the right way, observe signage, we will all be very happy. Yes. All right.
Speed guns are back on the road. Have they also contributed to checking speeds, especially during the festive season?
Certainly, yes. One of the biggest contributors to road fatalities in this country is speed. And if everybody was to move at the recommended speeds, I am certain that we can reduce these figures significantly. That is for sure. So we want to appeal to motorists. Plan your journeys in good time. Travel, leave early, and don't speed to catch up for wherever you want to go.
All right.
Because most of the time you'll end up never even being where you intended to go.
Okay. What are the speed limits? Could you clarify those for us, especially for the long distance?
Well, they vary.
Yeah.
On a on a carriageway, the maximum for private vehicles is 110. In urban areas, it can come as low as below 50. So it varies depending on the situation of the road. But in urban areas, we want to emphasize that signage be observed, and we have actually, as NTSA, in collaboration with some road authorities, enhanced the signage. You must have noticed that we have enhanced signage so that people can be directed by the signage to observe speed limits.
I know you're saying it varies, but maybe just clarify, especially some of the more popular routes during the holiday, Nairobi to Eldoret, Nairobi to Mombasa. Could you give us maybe 3 or 4 major routes and their speed limits, just to clarify?
You see the road, as you approach some sections which have maybe some, you are guided. Because if you are approaching maybe a hazardous place, they will guide you that the maximum speed limits for this section is this. But along the major highway, for private motorists, for double carriageway, is 110. That is the maximum.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel, or do you get the sense that that is now being adhered to more and more? Are you still seeing a major problem with people flouting that, especially the speed limits? Because I remember there was quite a bit of an uproar, so to speak, when those came out. What are you seeing now, feedback-wise, when it comes to the...
Well, I think there's been an improvement, particularly on PSVs, because of the digital speed limiters that we introduced. Today, you can walk into a vehicle and download the speed that vehicle has been traveling, let's say, for the last 72 hours. Therefore, if you are floating it, it is easy to detect. We are, however, a bit disturbed by some operators who are tampering with these equipments. And we will be very, very, very firm in dealing with those people who are trying to play around with us, tampering with the equipments, because we don't understand why they are doing so. So we will be very firm on those who will be found. And actually, we have taken very decisive measures with some of them. And we want to appeal to them that it is in their interest that these speed governors be in place because they enhance safety.
All right, we'll come back with more, of course, a lot more questions. So ask you all to take some viewer feedback and ask about some of the support that you're getting. You're saying that you are a small organization. We'll ask you whether you're getting enough support. You are watching The Big Question. Remember to text us on 22422. Include your name and location. What are some of your concerns regarding road accidents or reckless driving in your area? Also use the hashtag The Big Question on Twitter. We'll see you back here shortly. And welcome back. You're watching The Big Question, where we're live in studio with the Director General for the National Transport and Safety Authority, Francis Meja, who's been talking a lot about some of the things they've managed to achieve, some of the concerns that they still have as an organization. And now I'll take some of your feedback and questions on SMS. Someone here asking, Janet, can the Director General give his take about the return of carrying standing passengers, as intimated by the CS Engineer Michael Kamau? Your thoughts on that? The return of the standing passengers.
Yes, I think we are, the CS, the Cabinet Secretary, is in the process of gazetting the requirement to allow standing passengers, not for every PSV, I must emphasize that, but for designated and approved routes. The National Transport Authority will be able to give that this particular route and this particular type of buses be allowed to carry passengers. How
will you decide?
We will, because the design, first of all, we'll have to look at the design. The design for standing passengers is unique, and we launched a bus the other day which has those features. The reason we are doing this, Janet, is for one reason. You will agree with me that the congestion in Nairobi is no longer sustainable. So the only way to carry more passengers is to allow people to stand. But the vehicles that they'll be using are specialized for that purpose. And we have seen not just in Nairobi, other parts of the world, people will stand because the vehicle is moving on a short distance, and therefore issues of speeding will not be there, and adequate security measures are inbuilt in that particular bus.
All right, we'll go back to the speed limits.
Yes.
Susan in Nairobi says the 50 km/h speed limit in some parts of Nairobi is just unreasonable. You can't grow a developing country by grinding the country to a halt. It is a lazy response to road carnage. 80 km/h is more reasonable. 50 is only suitable, she says, for horse-drawn carts. What are your thoughts on that?
This has been very contagious. And I will tell you, Janet, that the reason we are doing this is not because we want to inconvenience anyone, but the number of pedestrians that are being killed on our highways is unacceptable. Chances of one dying if they are hit at a vehicle moving at 50 are high that you might survive. The reason we are saying people must slow down is because we are not disciplined as Kenyan drivers. I know driving at that speed is not very easy, but it's not also easy for those who are killed and maimed. So it is a balancing act. So until we get disciplined to observe zebra crossing, you'll find there's a pedestrian crossing. Motorists do not want to slow down. So you find somebody being killed there. The pedestrians themselves are not helping themselves. You find people being killed right beneath the bridge. and neither facility has been provided, people ignore. So we must resort to some of these things for the interest of saving lives.
Is there enough civic education being given to pedestrians, would you say?
I believe we have done that. And some of these things are, I would say, common sense. When you have a provisions, like a bridge, and then you just decide to cross walking, it's not very normal in my opinion. It is not, it's very unfortunate actually that this is happening. Yes.
Okay. And then someone here says NTSA should take all drivers to class similar to those of City Hopper or KBS, but please not to the driving schools we have. They are incompetent. Again, a lot of concerns coming on the SMS line about these driving schools. What have you heard? Are you concerned?
Well, the entry point of either competent or incompetent drivers is through the driving school. We have developed a curriculum for a new curriculum because we've discovered that we've learned that this is actually the entry point of incompetent drivers on our roads. So we have enhanced, made requirements for standardized kind of training because right now there is no standardization, so that at least we are sure that whoever gets out of our driving school, we are sure that the content and the curriculum is adequate to meet our requirements. Again, the other thing we need to address is the issue of the driving test centers. At the point of being tested to be satisfied whether you're a driver, we must make sure that we are putting more investment in that area so that as much as possible, we try to minimize the human intervention in the process. And it requires a lot of investment. But I think that's the only way to guarantee that the people who are being tested and examined are competent enough.
One or two more. Some of them are a bit specific. Moses from Kisumu says, please ask the Director General about overloading of matatus and buses in Kisumu town. Here the passengers are back to what they're saying are pre-Michuki days. Right in front of the police, they overload with impunity, and surprisingly, the police no longer stay on the road anymore. What do we do?
Well, that is unfortunate if that is happening. But generally, from even our own surveillance, we know Western Kenya, Nyanza, the levels of compliance have generally been very low. But we are working on a program that we will target those specific areas to address the challenges that are there, because it is unacceptable for anyone to overload a vehicle. But we also appeal to the public. Why should you allow yourself to board a vehicle that has no space for you? And you are paying the full fare. So the citizens must also help us and must participate in this program if we have to succeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally, what are you hoping to achieve? Your short-term goals, your long-term goals as NTSA. What is it that's top of priority on your list right now? I think
at the right now, our top priority is to minimize the numbers. We are most likely, I am confident, that we will be below the 3,000 mark, number of fatalities this year. But that is also still a huge number of just slightly below the, our vision actually is 0 crashes on our roads. That is our short-term objective, to minimize. But long-term, we want to leverage on technology to sort out some of these problems. Because most of the problems we see on our roads is because of the human behavior, and they can only be sorted out through minimum interaction with a human being.
All right. Finally,
like investment in cameras, permanently placed cameras, systems that will detect speed, a better mechanism, let's say, to profile drivers. If you commit a traffic offense, it should be on your record that you committed this offense on this day, so that then even your insurance premiums can go up, that you are a risky driver. And the moment we start hitting your pocket as an individual, you will start behaving well.
You'll start feeling the pinch.
Yes.
Are you getting enough support as an organization from
we
stakeholders?
Yes, we are. I must say the media has played a very big role. I must commend the citizen through the road hog. I am appealing that it comes back, because the rogue drivers are identified, and this time we want to promise that we will even take it further to find those drivers and take action, especially those ones we are easily to get the details from. The other partners we have worked very well. There is what we call, there are NGOs which have partners with us, and we encourage, and we want to say that we are open and we are available to invest and to play and contribute towards safety, because as long as we have drivers who are not good on our roads, no one for sure can claim to be safe.
Okay. All right, Francis Meja, thank you so much for taking time to come and talk to us, especially ahead of the festive season. I know that you said you're not very sure about revealing the details in terms of the Facebook or the lines right now, but in future you'll be able to tell us the hotlines that we can reach you on. Thank you all the same for your time.
And my message to all drivers, let's be responsible this time and let's minimize these fatalities. If you go to church, please pass a message. If you go to the temple or to the mosque, if you are a politician, let's pass the road safety message. It is very important.
Okay. All right. Thank you once again. All right. In other stories we're following for you, former TV news anchor Esther Runga has